everyone. I'm Melissa McAllister, and you're listening to the Melissa M.A.D.E Show. Now, for decades, I've dedicated myself to helping women break the cycle of dieting, navigate through all the fads, and change their lives through my nutrition coaching. Now, each week, I'm going to talk about everything from deep nutrition, mindset, self-care, the ideal workout routine, tips on how and why to implement intermittent fasting in your life, my favorite recipes that are not only crowd pleasers, but they're actually healthy for you, and so much more. Now, with small and consistent changes, you can defy aging while living a happier, healthier, and more heart-filled life. I'm so excited to show you it's possible with the right strategies that are so simple to adopt. Hello, welcome everybody to the Melissa M.A.D.E Show. Now, if you happen to be watching the YouTube video of this or see a clip of a reel, you're going to be like, gosh, Melissa has a lot of makeup on. Well, this is a lot of makeup for me. I just got done trying to remix a reel of a beautiful young lady who had no makeup on and then, did this transition and she had on beautiful makeup. And for me, it was going to be a parody because I am terrible at makeup, and it worked. So this is the remnants of my makeup, which, I did get rid of some of it, but man, I just cannot figure makeup out. For you girls and gentlemen that are good at it. It's an art form that I have not perfected. And, at this point in time, I'm just like, screw it. Because, when you get to a certain age, makeup actually makes you look older instead of better. So I'm going to go back to my naked face. Hashtag naked face. So anyway, I wanted to come on here and, I'm just like you. I like to scroll through reels. I watch, people's stories. I listen to YouTube videos on anything that's got to do with the human body, anything. I'm so fascinated by it. When I go on my walks, when I'm in front of my red light, I'm always just listening to stuff. And sometimes I will hear advice. I actually want to call this podcast Bad Advice 101, because I will hear advice and I'll hear it from, a few sources. And I want to preface this by saying the advice in and of itself isn't bad, because normally it's coming from a really good place. And it's coming from someone who has taken this advice from somebody else or has, experimented on themselves, and it's worked really well. And if there's one thing that we are learning, we've always known this, but one thing that's really being kind of highlighted, which I think is good, is how individualized we are as far as our diet goes. What is good for one person could really be poor for another person. And we need to quit, looking at this hunk or this beautiful physiqued woman thinking, oh my gosh, whatever she did, I need to do, because if it worked for her, it's going to work for me. And that is absolutely not true. So you've got to keep that in mind. So I just have, I think, 5 little bits of what I'm calling bad advice, which in and of itself, it's not bad advice. And I do believe maybe the person that I heard it from meant it well. It just, when you're giving this advice to a world, especially here in the United States, where near 90% of people are, their metabolisms are just not working the way that they should, that advice doesn't work well. Now, for the about 20% of people, and that's usually where you hear the advice from, so from someone who's, excuse my French, has got their shit together. And so they give that advice to the person who has struggled really bad and has a really long way to go to get back to being healthy. That advice, as much as you would hope that it would help, it doesn't. They need to take a couple steps back before they get to that point of living that kind of a lifestyle. See where I'm going with this? So anyway, a lot of this is just opinion. I have a couple of studies for a couple of them to, kind of help solidify this thinking of mine. But for the most part, it's just my opinion. And the first one is your brain needs carbohydrates to function. This is 100% true. And that's science. Your brain does need carbohydrates to function. But when we get that simple generic information, you are gonna have somebody that's going to grab a bag of pretzels or grab, some chips or some movie popcorn or something and think to themselves, well, my brain needs carbs. This isn't bad. So let me read I'm always going to link my studies in the notes, but let me read what this one very interesting study in PubMed said about carbohydrates, but I want you to listen to the type of carbohydrates. Chronic consumption of refined carbohydrates has been linked to relative neurocognitive defects across the lifespan. Early life exposure to refined carbohydrates, for example, prenatal, being in juvenile, in adolescent periods, may be particularly toxic to cognitive function. That's pretty bold to say that, children early on being exposed to refined carbohydrates can be toxic to cognitive functioning, to how your brain works. So when you hear, generally speaking, especially, usually a fitness person, because they have such an active lifestyle. And when you have a really active lifestyle, you can tolerate carbohydrates more than somebody who doesn't. So even if you get up every day and you do 30 minutes of exercise, that's fantastic. But if you're sedentary for the other, 15 and a half, 16 hours that you are awake, your body does not need the near carbohydrates as somebody who it's their profession. They're an athlete. They might be in the competitive world and they spend a long time in the gym, or they just might have a job where they're incredibly active, can tolerate carbohydrates more. And so you'll hear from them, carbohydrates are, needed to function in the brain. And that's true. But we have to be very careful about the type of carbohydrates that we eat. So when you hear that, think your brain needs these healthy carbs from, fiber-rich foods and vegetables and, fruit and some, whole grains, legumes, if you eat that kind of a thing, that's what your brain wants. Okay. It's not just carbohydrates. We have to be very specific about the carbohydrates because I don't want people to see that advice or hear that advice and think to themselves, carbohydrates across the board. Okay. The next one is still talking about carbohydrates and that carbohydrates are bad. So if you, right now in my refrigerator, I have a bowl of pineapple, a bowl of apples, and a bowl of mandarins. And I was thinking the other day, I went to grab a piece of pineapple and I thought, I know there are people out there that would grab a piece of fruit, a big bite of fruit and go, oh, it's bad, or that's off my plan. So if you have that mindset that, oh, I can't have, this because it's got 7 grams of carbs, especially if they're coming from a whole healthy food, that's when we have a problem. So carbs can be good and can be bad. But when you restrict healthy, good for you carbohydrates, that's when we have a problem. And, right now there's a lot of buzz out there about, I see some people say vegetables are bad. Some people will say, fruit is bad. Fruit in high consumption may not be good for you, but fruit in general is great for you, especially when it's in season. That's when I think we have a problem. We need all 3 macronutrients. We need them individually in different percentages, but we all need them. And we need to be careful with the types of proteins we eat. We need to be careful with the types of fats and the types of carbohydrates because we have somehow ruined all 3 of those macronutrients with people just trying to save money and make things cheaper and to make more of a profit. And so you have to be careful with all 3, but carbohydrates in and of themselves are not bad. I just think maybe out of all 3 of them, you have to be the most particular about the types of carbohydrates that you get. And then I would say, fats are very close because of those seed oils, those refined seed oils, and then your proteins, refined ultra processed carbohydrates, refined fats. It's those things, when we get a hold of food and change it and it comes out of a factory, that's when we've got to be very careful. But please don't listen to anybody that tells you, especially the vegetables are bad. You shouldn't be eating vegetables. Oh my goodness. All right. Number 3, the advice you hear all the time, again, especially in I hate to stereotype, but in the people that are trainers or in the fitness community, it's always the eat the cookie. And now I want a cookie. What's your favorite kind of cookie? I do like a homemade chocolate chip cookie, but as crazy and chocolate macadamia nut. That's white chocolate macadamia nut's pretty dang good too. But I also like the simple snickerdoodle. Have you heard of Lebkuchen, German cookie? That's good as well. Okay, I digress. Anyway, here I am talking about, maybe you shouldn't eat the cookie, and I'm talking about my favorite cookies. But I had the pleasure, and it's one of my highest watched podcasts with Dr. Tarman, who is a food addiction specialist, and she is actually recovering food addict herself. And her and I talked about this idea of moderation and abstinence. And when you have someone who doesn't have that food addiction, or is just so devout in their eating regimen, they can go a long time, say they're in prep, without eating that cookie, and then afterwards they have their cookie and they enjoy it, and then they go back to just being very strict because maybe there's another contest coming up. That's where their mindset is just go ahead and eat the cookie, because for them it's darn near abstinence with just a little tiny moment of moderation, and then they go back to the abstinence to live this very strict diet to just look phenomenal on stage. I just watched a competition yesterday, and oh my gosh, the works of art. But for somebody who can't moderate very well, and if you're saying go ahead and eat the cookie, they're like, yeah, she looks great and she tells me to eat this cookie, so I'm just gonna stop this, and I'm doing air quotes, restrictive dieting, and I'm going to eat the cookie. And then guess what? The mind goes to wherever that cookie came from. I want to go back to the store. I bought the whole sleeve. I'm going to eat the whole sleeve. It's in the pantry. I'm going to go back and grab a couple more and grab a couple more. That is a real problem for so many people. But when they hear a person that doesn't necessarily have that addictive personality in that time in their life, or they don't share that they have it, the person who hears that advice of just go ahead and eat the cookie, go ahead and have this and have that, and don't restrict yourself, is very, very difficult for someone that has addictive tendencies. I listened to Levels, the CGM company. They had a YouTube video talking about how to overcome sugar. And, they had an expert on there, and he said as well, the same thing, that your willpower can only take you so far. And none of us are really that strong that if you have a whole box of cookies in your freezer, let's just say Girl Scout cookies, and you've told yourself, you know what, I know every time I get in there that I'm going to, grab, 8 of them instead of just the one, because the one doesn't satisfy you. That's no way to live. You're going to be better off just telling your loved ones, you know what, these cookies, let's keep them at dad's work, or, take them to your friends and have them enjoy them with your friends, but get them out of the house. If you have a really hard time not obsessing about them because they're in the house, or controlling yourself, then my goodness, get rid of them. Every expert that has studied the psychology of food and food addiction will tell you that abstinence, at least in the beginning, is a better solution for you than trying to moderate and fight that willpower that I'm here to tell you I have to abstain. It's very hard for me when there's something in the house that I am just wanting so bad to sit there and battle with myself day in and day out to not go in there and eat more than I should. Have you tried countless diets, but you're still seeking your nutrition sweet spot? Are you trying to get results on your health journey to feel your best without being too restrictive? Now, I know how you feel. I've done the diet thing, but there never was that one that totally worked for me. And this is exactly why I developed the M.A.D.E diet. Now, I found that rather than restrictions, it's best to have a set of guidelines that allow you to customize based on your preferences and bio-individuality while staying on track with your health and fitness goals. I found the nutrition sweet spot. And as a health and nutrition expert, I get asked all the time, what when, and how I eat. And as someone who's passionate about education and helping others, I want to share that with you. Now, the M.A.D.E Diet ebook lays it all out for you, taking the guesswork out of dieting. The M.A.D E diet is a lifestyle plan that incorporates moderate protein, adequate fat, decreased carbs, and an introduction to intermittent fasting. The ebook gets right down to business by answering your most frequently asked questions. It includes thoughtfully designed recipes and a 7-day sample meal plan to start you off right. It will honestly kickstart your weight loss journey and have you losing inches in your very first week. Now, intermittent fasting combined with these nutritional guidelines is honestly the piece that so many people have been missing when trying to get results. This ebook has all the information you need in a format that is condensed and to the point so that you can get to your results. If you're ready to get started, the M.A.D E Diet ebook is available immediately on my website for just $9.99. So head over to melissamadeonline.com/M.A.D.E Diet to take action towards feeling your best today. And once you do, oh my gosh, please let me know it's working for you. I am so honored to be a part of your health journey. Okay, back to the show. All right, let's go ahead and talk about the next one, which is calories in, calories out, or if it fits your macros. Now, there is no denying that the amount of calories that you eat is really important. We're overfed, undernourished, and it's so easy to overeat that we have to be conscious of how much food we bring into our bodies. But I am telling you, we have to quit thinking about a calorie percentage or macro percentage and kind of leave it at that, because that advice is just not that best for us. I'm telling you, if you clean out your house, and I don't care if you eat it first because, money's tight, but eat all the stuff that you know is not serving you well. And then just make that commitment to eat more whole foods, things that, that have an expiration date that you've got to, you've got to make an effort to go to the store twice a week because the foods that you have will go bad, and get rid of all of the stuff in the boxes that have no expiration date, that are full of preservatives and salts and, refined oils and lots of sugar, and just go back to whole food. You will never have to count a calorie again. And you really won't have to care too much about if it fits your macros, if you even care about that kind of a thing. I think we gotten a little bit obsessed with eating exactly the right amount of calories, and a little bit obsessed with having these percentages of those macronutrients in order to be healthy, when all you have to do to be healthy is to really eat good quality, real food. And that is so freeing in and of itself. So when we talk about people and their, gosh, what do they call it? The diet culture and the restrictive eating. I just call it taking care of yourself. There will always be the opportunity. I've put up this post, I think twice, where if you just tell yourself on the day to day, every day that you're in control of what you're supposed to eat, you choose just healthy foods. There are, I think I had a list of like 18, and I was being very, narrow here, at least 18 reasons to have things off your plan. There's Valentine's Day, so you're going to have chocolate. There's your birthday, so you're going to have cake. There's Christmas, so you're going to have, pie. There's Thanksgiving, so you're going to have, stuffing. I mean, there's always a reason to have things that are off plan. So to tell yourself that you're being restrictive when you're in your grind and you're in your day-to-day and you're trying to live a healthy lifestyle, that you really just stick to a whole food-based diet and leave it there. Okay, so calories in, calories out. Calories do matter, but if you get rid of all the junk and don't count the calories, and if it's your macros, you don't concentrate on the macros so much, then you're not eating a cookie that's got higher protein in it. Instead, you're eating, some shredded chicken on a salad with some nuts and lots of vegetables and a really yummy dressing. I mean, is it, salad and cookie the same? No, but I guarantee that opportunity to have that cookie is going to come up. And it'll come up a lot faster than you think. And guess what? It's okay, because you have been living a very healthy lifestyle most of the time, most of the time, knowing that that cookie opportunity is going to come, but don't fit a protein cookie into your diet. It's going to happen. I promise. Okay. And then the last one is you're not going to get fat if you eat late at night. Okay. I see that a lot. It's true. I mean, if we go back to these are probably the people that count their calories. So they've eaten 1,500 calories for the day and they have 150 calories left. It's 9 o'clock at night and they decide to have the cookie. Do you see how I'm fitting it all together here? They decide to have the cookie at 9 o'clock at night, $150. Wow, that'd be a good cookie, 150 calorie cookie, which is pretty good size. They're not going to gain weight because they're eating that cookie at 9 o'clock at night, right before they go to bed. But, and here's another study for you that I will read, that a late night dinner induces nocturnal glucose intolerance and reduces fatty acid oxidation and mobilization, particularly in earlier sleepers. These effects might promote obesity if they reoccur chronically. So if you hear from somebody, you're not going to get fat from, eating late at night, that's baloney. It's really not. It disrupts your sleep terribly. Really, really, truly disrupts your sleep and keeps you from getting good quality sleep. And when you don't get good quality sleep, it messes up your hormone, a lot of hormones, but one in particular is ghrelin, which is your hunger hormone. And that has been proven definitively that if you get poor sleep, especially chronically, that hormone ghrelin raises, which makes you feel hungrier than you really are the next day. So if you're eating late at night, scientifically, you're not gaining weight at that moment because it might still be within, the calorie range that keeps you from gaining weight, but the whole next day is going to be so much harder for you because you're going to feel so much hungrier throughout the day because you ate late at night. It screwed up your hormones, gave you a poorer night's sleep, and the next day you suffer because of it. So when you hear that simple, I used to think that, eating late made me fat and it's always labeled with a diet trend or something like that. The truth is it really does. You do your body such a good service by waiting about 3 hours. I just interviewed age reversing expert. She's wonderful. And even she said because she's also a sleep expert, a sleep counselor. And she said that you usually want to stop eating around 7 o'clock. So even if you're an early to bedder at 9 o'clock, or, she said the optimal time to sleep to go to bed is 10 o'clock, because between 10 and 2 are the best time for your hormones. And I think she was really talking about human growth hormone, which is amazing to have plenty of. You don't want to screw that up at all. So you don't want to go to bed any later than 10 o'clock. So she says to stop eating at 7. That's 3 hours. And that's anybody with a lot of schmarts up here. Okay. A lot of schmarts, people who just aren't counting their calories and their body fat percentage, but people who really understand the human body will tell you that you shouldn't eat about 3 hours before you go to bed to give yourself a really good quality sleep, where your brain gets the opportunity to, process what happened in the day and to create memories and to help restore and repair the body. All of that stuff happens when you get good sleep. And when you don't, none of it happens. And not only that, but it has been attributed to obesity if it occurs chronically and increases that ghrelin, which makes you feel it sucks. For my women out there, I did stories about this. For me, when my period is about to come, that day before, that ghrelin is a beast. And it's crazy to me. I can't eat enough, and there's never that sensation of full. And that's the kind of same thing that happens when you eat late at night. So this was supposed to be a really short podcast with just 5 quick tips, but let me run through them again really fast. And just tell you, when I say it's bad advice, it's bad general advice. Okay. It could be great advice for one person, but when you're, speaking it across a platform that has billions of users, it could not be the best advice. And the first one is that your brain needs carbohydrates to function. Yes, but be very, very particular about the carbohydrates that you choose. Your brain can actually be damaged by refined carbohydrates. But those healthy vegetables and fruits and quality proteins and fats and all that stuff are good for the brain. And you can find good carbohydrates for the brain, but you just can't say, it's a preferred source of energy and your brain needs carbohydrates. You got to be more specific than that these days, because there's a lot of poor carbohydrates out there that actually are bad for the brain. Carbs in general are bad. None of the macronutrients are bad, but we do have carbohydrates that don't serve us. And we really need to have some sort of carb control and to be picky, very, very picky about the carbohydrates that we eat, because there are the majority of them out there these days. I mean, if you were to put a stack of carbohydrates from the grocery store versus the refined carbohydrates versus, fresh whole food, it would be ginormous versus tiny. There's such a few amount of really good carbohydrates for you in the grocery store versus the mass amounts that your body really can do without, except on that rare occasion when, a Ritz cracker just sounds really good. Eat the cookie. And I'm just using that because there was one particular reel where personal trainer was saying that, and it just hurts my heart because I work with the people that have these food addictions, and when they go and hear eat the cookie and they try to moderate how much of that stuff they eat, it wreaks such havoc on their emotions and their brain and their willpower. And I'm telling you, for many people, it's better to just abstain, even for a little while, just to say, you know what, until I can get over how dependent I am on them, I just need to do without them. And it is such an easier path in the long run to be able to get back to a healthy eating style, to be able to keep those out of the diet until you're like, you know what, I feel better and I look better when look in the mirror. And when those things happen, that willpower and that ability to moderate happens, but it doesn't happen when you just, the day before you binged on them. And then all of a sudden that next day, you're going to be able to just eat one. Okay. Calories in, calories out, or if it fits your macros, let's get away from counting calories and counting proteins and fats and carbs, and instead just look at a plate and make sure you have all three macros on, and like we said before, just be cautious or careful with the carbohydrates on there and try to get good quality fats and good quality proteins as well. But when you go back to whole food living, it frees up all of the measuring and the percentage and the apps and the calculators, the label reading. Just eat whole food. Just eat a good amount of whole food, vegetables, fruits, meats, vegetables, and it'll rock your world. Man, I promise you, if you've not done this yet, just commit to it. Commit to it for 1 month. Make August. This will probably be released in August. Make September your month that you are going to eat a whole food based diet. Okay. And the last one is you won't get fat if you eat late at night. That's just simply not true. Now, scientifically, if you eat those calories and you're not overeating, it's true. But the effects of it long-term, 100% science, without a shadow of a doubt, proves that late night eaters do have, it can cause obesity over time. And it does just make living that next day harder to control what you eat because of the hormone ghrelin that just runs more rampant when you go to bed without having a good night's sleep. All right. Well, that's it. I hope you guys have a fantastic day wherever you are. And I just wanted to thank you again, your personal messages that I get, especially on Instagram about the podcast. And then when you share it and ask people to subscribe, just absolutely warms my heart. As my mom would say, to the very cockles of my heart. And I don't even know if that's a real thing. She's Southern, so she makes stuff up all the time. But appreciate you guys. Love you guys. This podcast is doing so well, and it's because of you. And I want to thank you for that. So remember, my goal is for you to wake up every single day feeling prepared, and then to go to bed feeling proud. Have a great day. Wow, we've reached the end. But before I leave you, I'd love to hear from you. After all, it's not every day that someone reaches out and asks for your opinion. And to me, your opinion does matter. So please share this episode with anyone that you think needs to hear this message. And remember to rate, review, and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. My name is Melissa McAllister. And until next time, thank you for being your own health advocate.